Hey, what's going on guys? Mike here, back in the aquarium lab. Got a change of scenery here. We're in front of the 125. The 90 is still empty. I haven't started to work on the hardscape yet, but I am very soon. I want to get your opinion on something, so make sure you hang out for at least another minute or two. But did you guys know that Seachem makes an HOB filter? I had no idea. I guess this thing is new to 2017. I had no idea it existed. My friend actually got one of these things for his 75. I guess when it came out. But as soon as he told me that this thing existed, and he told me about some of the features that this thing has, like a built-in skimmer, etc., I just had to get one. So this thing finally came in today. If you guys are interested in the Tidal HOB filter, I'll put a link down in the description to where I got it on Amazon, so you can check it out yourself. We're gonna open this thing up and do sort of like a mini review of its features, and then we're gonna go hook it up on the 72, talk about what I'm gonna be doing filter-wise and what I have to do to prepare for the 90 setup. But before we open this thing, I want to get your opinion on something. In the 90-gallon tank that I'm redoing, I'm going to be using pool filter sand as the main substrate. So here we have two different types of pool filter sand. This is the traditional, white stuff that typically people use, but this pool filter sand is just a different brand, and it's also obviously a different color. This stuff is wet, and that's why it sort of looks a little bit different. This stuff, the bag I got off of Amazon, it was obviously dry. This was outside at the pool, store by my house. But I can't decide, because on one hand, I really like, the contrast, and just, the tank's gonna be a lot brighter if I use the white stuff. But then on the other hand, it's like, I want the tank to be as natural looking as possible. So that's where this stuff comes in, and I just don't know what to use. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know it's tough to, pick the substrate when you don't know what else is going in the tank, but I will say that I'm gonna be adding a bunch of this boulder lava. So that's gonna be sort of the main, hardscape rock in the tank. And there's gonna be a bunch of Java fern, obviously, because I have a ton of it. So if you can imagine what the substrate would look like with a lot of this stuff and a lot of big green Java ferns on it, I could use your help on deciding what stuff to pick. All right, let's now go ahead and open up the Tidal 55 HOB filter, marketed by Seachem, made by Seachem, which is a pretty, legit foreign pump maker. So they partnered with Seachem to make this pump, or Seachem partnered with them, I think is the way it goes. Basically to just offer a HOB filter that does a lot of things that the current ones on the market don't do. And after doing a little bit of research on this thing and checking it out at my friend's house, this thing looks like it's gonna be really good. And spoiler alert, it is. So let's go ahead and open it up, and we'll kind of step by step go through its features and why those features are cool. So let's go ahead and take this out, which is gonna be, I think, the filter intake, and there's like a heater clamp, yep. So I just assembled the few parts that came in that box. The first thing, which is actually kind of interesting, is a little piece here that holds your heater. So, that's kind of novelty at best. For me at least. Some of you guys might think that's cool, just an organization thing. You can clip your heater in and keep it, right next to your filter. So take that for what it is. The other thing was the filter, well, not that part, was the filter input. You got a telescopic input, which is, pretty standard stuff, but I think, fairly necessary. At least if you want to have a competitive HOB filter. And the last thing was the little blue piece, kind of hard to see. But basically, you put this on the back of your tank and you adjust this so that the filter sits level. All pretty standard stuff up to this point, with the exception of the heater clip, but take that for what it is. Now, the next thing, and probably one of the coolest things that I think you guys will really appreciate, is the fact that this is a self-priming HOB filter, meaning that you don't have to fill it up to get it going. So that's achieved by the fact that the pump is way down here. So the fact that this one is way down low and always covered with water means that you don't need to prime the filter. It's self-priming and it's always ready to go. So now let's work our way up the filter, and as we do that, we're gonna start to see some more unique aspects of it. So here we have a little grate, and that's actually where we're gonna get some surface skimming. So that's something that's really unique. I don't think any other HOBs on the market have a skimmer that's like this, you know, built into the design of it. You don't need any additional piece. And you can actually modulate the amount of flow that goes to the skimmer with the cover that covers the pump. So if we cover this, you'll notice that we have a little blue wheel here. And this blue wheel basically moves a smaller blue piece inside. I don't know if you can see that. Where are we gonna get it? Sorry about the lighting, guys. But basically, you turn the wheel and you either open or you close a hole that's in here that will modulate the amount of water that goes through the skimmer. So you can turn the skimmer completely off, or you can have it wide open, or you can have it in the middle. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And, you know, I'm sure some of you guys will appreciate it too if you want to skim your water. Now let's take the lid off of this thing, because this is where all the really important stuff lives. So in here, we'll talk about this lid in a second. In here we have a few different things. We have another blue knob that is going to restrict or increase the amount of flow that's coming out of the filter. So that's another new thing that I'm pretty sure no other HOBs have, the ability to, you know, modulate the flow. If you want to turn it down for whatever reason, maybe you're feeding or something, I don't know. I would probably just leave it open all the time. But that's a really interesting, cool new feature, I think. But here's where the really important stuff lives, right? The filter box. So Seachem decided that they wanted to, I think, give people more options as far as what type of media they could use, which is really cool. This comes with some media, but let's figure out how to take this thing off first. Okay, so there's a little piece here, another little blue piece that you slide, and then you can then pull this box out. At least I think that's how it's supposed to go. Yep, there we go. So it takes a little bit of force, but I mean, that's good. This thing's in here snug. So here we have that filter box. It looks like they give you some biomedia with it, which is always nice to have extra. And then there's a sponge down here at the bottom. Nice little blue sponge that fits in there. You can see that it's graded to let water flow come through. But this is really cool. We can put any, you know, you could fill this up with bio balls if you want, put some chemical media on top, and you're all ready to go. I really like that. I really appreciate that, because I don't, you know, when it comes to regular HOB filters, I don't like to use the stuff that the company that sells the HOB filter wants to sell you. I just put my own stuff in it, and just that's just how I roll. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are like that too. That's a pretty good size container. You could put a lot of stuff in there. So I'm excited about that. I mean, just look at how big this thing is. You guys see that? I need to get some better lighting. So this is pretty cool. I'm probably gonna fill this up with some lava rocks. They're super cheap, and you can't beat cheap media, guys. So the last cool feature about this filter is that if it gets clogged, it has a way of telling you that. So here on the top of the lid, you can see we have a blue thing, and what that is basically a float. So if the water level rises in this compartment that's over on this side of the filter, this thing is gonna rise, and that's gonna tell you that you probably need to get in and do some stuff to your media, clean it out or replace it. It also has a drain here that will drain the water out if things get too crazy. You're not gonna have, you know, water spilling out in all directions. I'm gonna go ahead and fill this thing up with my media, and then we'll go slap it over on the 72, and we'll talk a little bit more about what I'm doing filter-wise for the new tank and how I'm gonna cycle this particular HOB filter. So I totally forgot that I can't actually fit an HOB behind this tank because I have these cabinets here. Nothing's getting back there, so I have it jerry-rigged here on the side and the light propped up on it to help show it off a little bit better. But let's go ahead and see if this thing can self-prime itself. Just plugged it in, making some weird noise. Making some really weird noise, but it self-primed itself. Let's see if we can get that to stop making that weird noise. What is that? There we go. Okay, so I think this piece was just seated on it a little weird, but there we go. It works. So far so good. The filter is, I mean, really quiet. You can barely hear it. I mean, you hear more of the water than anything. And again, we can go ahead and we can turn down the flow and turn up the flow. I think I just did that backwards. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to notice, you know, when you modulate the the amount coming through it, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. Another thing that's cool is that the water comes in and it immediately goes underneath. So, you know, in normal HOBs, it just pours over the edge, and if your stuff's clogged up, what's gonna happen is the water's not gonna properly go through the media. With this filter, it appears that everything is channeled down to the bottom and comes up really nice. You can see there's really hardly any water surface agitation here, but it's coming out and it's going over the edge, and I mean, pretty good. I give it a good grade so far. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this filter run in tandem with the canister filter on here for at least a few days. Now, that's because I'm gonna be eventually taking the canister filter off of this tank, making some modifications to it, and put it on the 90-gallon aquarium that we're setting up. So, I mean, it's gonna take more than a few days for this media to grow a bunch of bacteria on it to the point where it can filter this tank. So we'll be supplementing that here, you know, before we take the canister filter off. What I'll do here at the end of this video is grab a piece of filter padding that has a bunch of bacteria on it, and I'll wedge it down there in the rocks to help get this filter going. That way I can then take the canister filter off and not have to worry about this tank having any issues with ammonia. Like I said earlier, this is the 55, which is good for, you know, tanks 55 and under per the manufacturer. What I've found, guys, is that you can underfilter tanks and not have any issues. I'm not concerned about, you know, this not being enough for this tank. We're gonna be just fine. But here's the cool thing. So this filter, the 55, does 250 gallons per hour. The 110 does almost 1,000. This filter, though, cost 50 bucks. The 75 only costs $10 more, and the 110, which is, you know, double the recommended tank size, is only another $10. So you're looking at 20 more bucks for a filter, $70 for a 110. Now, if you compare this filter and the other ones to what's on the market already, it is a little bit more pricey, but honestly, all the other features, you know, whether or not they're really, you know, required or not is sort of up in the air, but, you know, it's not a bad option. I like it so far. Speaking of other things that I'm liking so far, the Beamwork LED has been on here for what, like a week and a half maybe? I can't remember, but so far so good. You know, the plants haven't died. Everything in the tank is looking basically the same. So again, another thing, so far so good. I'm happy with it. I haven't tried the 72-inch fixture on the 125. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna do that or not, but the Beamwork LED, I don't hate it. Guys, I do not hate it. Hopefully I can get a little bit more information and hopefully some par data from this thing in the not too distant future, get you guys a little bit more of an idea of how this thing functions on a planted tank. But until then, you know, based on the experience I've had with it so far, I'm liking it. So I think that's gonna pretty much do it for today's video, guys. If you're into HOBs, I definitely recommend you take a look at the Tidal HOB filter, the HOB by Seachem. Kind of random, but I guess it makes sense. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And hey guys, we will see you very soon with the start of the 90-gallon tank, the aquascaping video, as well as a crayfish video update. Spoiler alert, it's not good. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.